Hello and welcome to Minnesota Minerals. Today we're going to talk about selenite, which is a mineral. We're going to talk about what it is, how it's formed, where you can find it, the different types, and I'm going to show you some examples. Okay, so selenite crystals are a type of gypsum mineral that occurs when salty water evaporates in mineral-rich lake beds or springs and leaves behind a layer of minerals that crystallize over time. One of its physical features is that it forms in plates. So if you followed my finger a second ago, these are plates that are on top of each other. So it breaks into sheets or plates. And this is a piece that I found. It was the first piece that I found. I'm kind of proud of it because it's a big chunk. And then here's one of many pieces that my friend Melissa sent me packing with after our trip last week. Here you can see a line in there. You can see several lines in this selenite on the side, and that is where it breaks into sheets if it breaks. So selenite specifically forms in sedimentary rocks in places like dried up lake beds or limestone areas that have been weathered. It forms from calcium sulfate, which is calcium, one calcium atom, one sulfur atom, all chemically bonded to 4 oxygen atoms. So 1 calcium atom, 1 sulfur atom, and 4 oxygen atoms. So what happens is calcium sulfate precipitates from the saturated solution that it's in, which leads to the growth of transparent crystals. Here is another flat piece that I found, and it is pretty translucent. It's got some dirt inside of it, and I would say this one has more of a pearly luster. So let's talk about the physical properties. And this is a paper thin one. It's very transparent. You can see through it. Back to the physical properties. Physical properties of selenite is that it's a very soft mineral. On the Mohs hardness scale, it's a 2, which means it can be scratched with a fingernail. And then when we talk about like the sheen or the shine, the way that it looks, it's called its luster. They have a vitreous to pearly, sometimes silky luster. And then let's stop and look at this for a second. So this was almost a desert rose or a rosette. But most people in Arizona call them desert roses. And these are very unique. They're super cool. Now these rosettes or desert roses, when they're forming, the crystals are often growing in a radial or rosette-like pattern, hence the rosette word for that. Now this is another really pretty piece that's very transparent. And I forgot to mention earlier, selenite's name comes from Selene, which means moon. And that makes sense because selenite has a pearlescent white luster, but it doesn't always look like that. It does occur in other colors, as you can see from the examples that I'm showing you. It occurs in colors like gray, yellow, brown, reddish brown, and green. And then, of course, that has to do with whatever minerals are in the solution when it's forming. This one in particular looks like it might have been attached to another one, possibly, that would make a type of twinning, which is when it's shaped like a V, which makes it look kind of like a fishtail. And this is a cluster of elongated crystals, so it's just a bunch of narrow, thin crystals all clustered together. And this one is more clear. It just has a bunch of dirt inclusions in it. Needs to be cleaned up. You can wash selenite with water. It's not going to usually dissolve. So a lot of times you can use water to clean the selenite and make it look really pretty. You could soak it in some soapy water. But yeah, this is really pretty. This is all from southern Arizona. And these are just some different examples. And then another one that's just like a little plate, a little sheet of selenite. And it's got some little tiny dirt inclusions in it, but it's more transparent. This is a good example of a desert rose or a rosette. It's not perfect. If you Google desert rose online, you'll see selenite desert roses that are a lot prettier than this. But yeah, I wouldn't soak it in water for that long or really brush it. It's very delicate. Here's a quick diagram to help you understand the crystal structure. It is monoclinic, which means all 3 axes are unequal in length and 2 axes are perpendicular to each other. That is how the crystals grow. Back to the chemical structure of calcium sulfate. Again, it is 1 calcium ion bonded to sulfate, which is a sulfur, and 4 oxygens. Now, here are some examples my friend Melissa Appleby collected from down in southern Arizona. She sent me these pictures to use. This is an example of twinning. When crystals are twinning, that means that they're growing together in a mirrored or symmetrical way when they're forming. And these are actually really pretty and very neat to be able to find. This next example, this is called a selenite wand, and I have several of these selenite wands. These I use to make jewelry with, and I've been using them for like 4 or 5 years now to make jewelry to electroform pendants for necklaces. Some of them have amethyst on them and some of them don't, but one of the common uses of selenite is to make pendants out of them. And then, of course, they do have other uses. Now, remember, this is a gypsum mineral, and gypsum is used for a lot of different things. People put it in the soil to improve the soil, and it's also used in construction, like in drywall. And then back to the soil, it's used in agriculture. It can also be used in dental plaster, orthopedic casts, and even in some food products. So it's a mineral that's very common and all around us that we use every day. Now, if you have any questions, if this made you think of questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer those questions. I am a science teacher. And then also, if you thought this was useful and interesting and you like this video, like and subscribe. Awesome. Thank you.